The medical clinic in downtown Seattle was always too bright, too sterile, and far too silent for my liking. I sat on the edge of the blue plastic chair, the cold gel still sticky on my stomach after a routine kidney scan. I was 68 years old, and I truly believed I had seen everything life could throw at me. I had survived 2 battles with cancer, buried my parents, and raised 3 children while working as a teacher for years. I believed my life was a book nearing its peaceful final chapters, filled with quiet evenings and garden work. But when Dr. Carmen turned off the monitor in the middle of the exam, the silence in the room suddenly changed. She didn't look at me with the usual professional smile. Her face was pale, and her hands were visibly trembling as she locked the office door and turned the key. I felt a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the clinic air. "Mrs. Miller," she whispered, her voice so low I had to lean forward to hear her clearly over the hum of the machines. "I need to talk to you about something very serious. Something involving your husband, Robert." My first thought was that Robert was ill. After 45 years of marriage, the idea of losing him terrified me, even if he had been distant and glued to his phone lately. I asked what was wrong, but the doctor simply pulled a thick folder. "I've worked here for 15 years, and I've never seen a betrayal like this in my entire career," she said as she opened what felt like a ticking bomb. She showed me the system records. 3 months ago, a 24-year-old woman named Jessica had come into the same office, 5 months pregnant. The father listed on the form was Robert Miller, my husband, with our exact home address. I tried to laugh it off, telling her it was impossible. I explained to her that Robert had a vasectomy 20 years ago and could not have children. But Dr. Carmen pushed a document toward me, showing that he had secretly reversed the procedure 2 years ago, paying in cash to keep it off our insurance. The room began to spin as I read the date. But the medical betrayal was only the beginning. Dr. Carmen revealed that Jessica had returned to the clinic recently, crying because Robert had made promises. Robert had promised to marry the girl as soon as the old woman was out of the picture for good. He had told the mistress and was currently telling our children and neighbors that I had advanced Alzheimer's. He was building a narrative, piece by piece, to have me institutionalized in a specialized facility. I sat there, my mind perfectly lucid, realizing how Robert had been gaslighting me for months. He had been planning to erase my existence. He had insisted I stop driving, saying it was too dangerous for my age and that I was becoming a risk. He had canceled my credit cards to simplify things and interrupted me during family dinners, saying, "Mom is a bit confused today." He wasn't caring for me. He was erasing me. "There is more," Dr. Carmen said, showing me a forged power of attorney. Robert had gambling debts exceeding $1 million to very dangerous and shadowy people. The document, with a signature that looked like mine but wasn't, gave him total control over my assets, including the estate my mother had left me, which I had forgotten was still only in my name. His plan was terrifyingly simple. Lock me in an asylum where I would be drugged into silence, sell our home and my mother's estate using the fake power of attorney, pay off his debts, and start a new life with a young woman and a new child in another city. I felt a primitive rage rising from a place I didn't know existed within my soul. I wasn't just a discarded wife. I was a target in a cold-blooded hunt. I spent 20 minutes in my car in the parking lot, clutching the yellow envelope of evidence Dr. Carmen had risked her career to give me. I drove home on autopilot, parking at our old building in the city center. Robert wasn't there. He had left a note on the fridge about a very important meeting. Looking at his elegant handwriting, I realized it was the same hand that had signed my death warrant. I began my own investigation immediately. I found his old broken cell phone hidden in a shoebox in the back of his closet. I charged it and found hundreds of messages with Jessica, lawyers, and debt collectors. Every piece of the puzzle was there. When Robert arrived home at 7 p.m., I served him his favorite dinner with a fake, perfect smile. For the next few days, I lived a double life in my own house. I acted like the confused, fragile woman Robert wanted me to be while secretly meeting with a forensic attorney specializing in fraud. I underwent a secret 3-hour psychiatric evaluation to prove my sanity to the world. The doctor certified me as perfectly healthy and lucid. I also had the power of attorney analyzed. The handwriting expert confirmed the forgery in a formal report. Then came the hardest part, my children. Robert had already planted the seeds of doubt in their minds, telling them I was becoming forgetful and unstable. I called them to a secret lunch at a restaurant across town. When I told them we were divorcing, they were shocked. But when I laid out the folders with the proof of their father's betrayal, their world collapsed along with mine. The truth was far more painful than the lies they heard. I showed them the messages where Robert called me, the old lady, and told Jessica that our children were prepared to see me locked away. My eldest son, Marcos, wanted to confront him immediately with violence, but I stopped him. "Justice will handle this," I said firmly, "but I need you all on my side. It's going to get ugly, and we must be ready." I also visited Jessica's apartment. She was young and pregnant, surrounded by baby clothes. She looked at me with fear, realizing her fantasy was built on a foundation of theft. I didn't feel pity, only a cold determination. I gave her the same folder I gave my children. I told her that Robert didn't love her. He was using her as an escape from his debts and would discard her just as easily as he was discarding me once the money ran out. My lawyer filed a preventive measure to block any sale of my properties that same afternoon. We also notified the bank to freeze any accounts accessible via the forged power of attorney. Robert's perfect plan was being dismantled from the inside out, and he was too arrogant to notice the change. He was too busy dodging calls from his debt collectors to see the trap I was setting for him. The following Thursday, I prepared a special dinner to celebrate our 45th anniversary a week early. I used the fine china and the best wine. Robert was relaxed, thinking he had finally won. I asked him if he remembered how I used my inheritance to save his business years ago when he was failing. He smiled and took my hand, thanking me for every day by his side. I looked into his eyes and saw nothing but a void, a total lack of human conscience. Suddenly, the front door opened with such force it hit the wall. It wasn't my children, it was the police and my estate lawyer. Robert turned red, waving his papers and shouting at me, "Beatrice, what is this? Are you confused again? You are having an episode." I stood up, no longer the professor or the submissive wife, but the woman who had outsmarted him. "I'm not confused, Robert. I know everything," I said. "I know about Jessica, the baby, the reversed vasectomy, the gambling debts, and the forged power of attorney." He collapsed into a chair, trying to find a lie. For the first time in nearly half a century, he had nothing to say. My lawyer handed him the divorce summons and the notice of criminal charges for falsification and attempted fraud. Robert looked at me with pure hatred and told me I could prove nothing against a man of his standing. But I informed him that the doctor he tried to bribe was cooperating with the authorities and that the handwriting expert had already testified in the case. Then I delivered the final blow to his ego. "By the way, Robert, your debt collectors know your plan failed," I said. "I sent them anonymous proof that you have no access to my money and that a lawsuit is pending. You're on your own now." As the police led him away in handcuffs, he was screaming that he was an important man, but he looked small, broken, and old. The neighbors watched from their windows as the facade of the perfect man fell. 2 months later, I sat on the small balcony of my new studio apartment, drinking tea and watching the sunset over the Space Needle. It was small, but it was mine, and for the first time in decades, I was free from the fear of being confused. The criminal case against Robert was moving forward with charges of document falsification and attempted fraud. He had tried to settle multiple times through his lawyer, but I refused every offer. The divorce was finalized quickly because I had all the leverage. We split the proceeds from the city apartment, but the estate in the countryside remained solely mine. Robert, meanwhile, was living in a nightmare of his own making. Without access to my funds, the debt collectors had caught up with him. He had been beaten so badly he spent a week in the hospital, and his expensive car had been burned in a mysterious fire near his motel. Jessica had her baby, a boy. She called me crying, apologizing for her role in the betrayal, and telling me that Robert had vanished the moment he lost his money. I thought long and hard about it. She had hurt me, but she was a victim of his manipulation too, and the baby was innocent of the father's crimes. I sent her some of my children's old clothes and a check, not enough to be her friend, but enough to ensure a child didn't starve. I would never have a close relationship with them, but I couldn't be as heartless as Robert was. My children were doing well, visiting me every week and supporting my journey to recovery. My eldest granddaughter, Sophia, asked me if I was sad after 45 years of marriage. I told her I was sad for the time wasted with someone who didn't value me, but I wasn't sad about the end. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is start over. I spent my 69th year renovating the estate my mother left me, turning it into a sanctuary of light and art. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since I was a young student in college. My first attempts were terrible, but it didn't matter. I was doing it for me, on my own terms, in my own time. I also returned to teaching, taking on a few private students. Helping young minds grow was my true passion, one I had set aside. Robert called once, leaving a voicemail about how he had made bad choices and how he still loved me in his own way. I deleted it without finishing it. Not because I was angry, but because he was simply irrelevant to my future. He was a ghost from a past life that no longer had the power to haunt me. I often meet with my old friends, a group of retired teachers. One of them told me, "Beatrice, you saved your own life," and she was right. When Dr. Carmen trembled while showing me those papers, I could have surrendered to the fear. I could have believed I was too old or too weak to fight a man like Robert. But I chose to be forged in fire. Now, as the sun disappears over the horizon, I smile. Tomorrow will be a new day, and for the first time in nearly half a century, that day belongs completely to me. Never underestimate an older woman. We have survived it all. I am finally, truly home. The fog of Seattle still rolls in, but it no longer hides the lies of a man I once called my husband. I look at my hands, once shaking with fear, now steady as I hold my paintbrush. My story is a warning to others. Trust your instincts, even when the people closest to you tell you that you are losing your mind. The truth has its own weight, and once you find it, you can never be made a prisoner again. My daughter Julia came over for dinner last night, and we talked for hours about things we hadn't discussed in years. She told me she felt guilty for not seeing Robert's manipulation sooner. I told her that he was a master of his craft, and that guilt was a wasted emotion. We are here now, and that is what matters. We are building a new history, one based on honesty and mutual respect, and our family has never felt stronger or more united. I recently attended a local seminar on financial elder abuse, and I was asked to share my story with the group. I was nervous at first, but as I spoke, I saw the faces of other women who had been made to feel confused or incapable. My words gave them strength, and their support gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I realized that my survival wasn't just for me. It was a beacon for others trapped in similar shadows. Sometimes I think about the ultrasound monitor and the moment the screen went dark. It was the end of a long lie and the beginning of an uncomfortable truth. But I would choose that truth 1,000 times over the comfortable prison I was living in. Robert is currently serving his sentence, and while I wish him no further harm, I also wish him no place in my heart. I have reclaimed my name, my mind, and my destiny for good. The garden at the countryside estate is finally starting to bloom, and the colors are more vibrant than I remember. I spend my mornings tending to the roses and my afternoons reading books that have nothing to do with law or medicine. My life is simple, but it is rich. I have my health, my family, and my dignity. The old woman that Robert wanted to lock away is gone, and in her place is a woman who knows exactly who she is and what she is worth. I received a letter from Jessica a few weeks ago, thanking me for the check and telling me she has moved back to her parents' house. She included a photo of the baby. He has Robert's eyes, but I hope he inherits none of his father's character. I wished her well and put the letter away. It was the final loose thread from that messy chapter, and now it is tied. I am ready for whatever the next season of my life brings, without any fear. Marcos is taking me to the theater this weekend to see a play we both love. It's a small thing, but it's part of the life I have reclaimed. No one tells me what I can or cannot do, or when I should feel tired. I move at my own pace, and for the first time, I am enough. The silence in my apartment isn't lonely. It's a sanctuary. It's the sound of a woman who has found her voice after 45 years of whispering to please others. I've started writing a memoir about my experience, not as a victim, but as an analyst of a long-term betrayal. I want to document the subtle ways gaslighting works so that others can recognize the signs before the door of the institution closes on them. It's hard work, facing the memories of the dinners where I was told I was forgetful, but it's healing too. Every word I write is a brick in the wall of my new and permanent freedom. Robert's lawyer contacted me one last time to ask for a character reference to help with his early release application. I didn't even respond. Some people never learn that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing a predator back into your life. He can serve his time, and I will continue to serve my purpose. My life is too valuable to spend even a second on his redemption. I have my own restoration to focus on, and it is going beautifully well. Today, I went for a drive along the coast, the windows down and the sea air filling my lungs. Robert always said I was too slow of a driver, that I was a hazard to others. But today, I drove with confidence and grace, enjoying the journey as much as the destination. I stopped at a small cafe and had lunch alone, reading a book of poetry. I didn't feel invisible. I felt essential. I am a part of the world again, on my own terms. My son Pedro called to tell me that his youngest daughter wants to be a doctor. I told him that was wonderful, and that I hope she becomes like Dr. Carmen, someone who values the truth above the convenience of silence. We talked about her school projects and her dreams, and for once, the conversation didn't revolve around my health issues. It was a normal, happy talk between a mother and her son, and it was absolutely priceless to me. I recently met a woman at the community center who had lost everything in a scam. We sat and talked for hours, and I realized that while my betrayal was personal, the mechanics of greed are always the same. She told me that seeing me so strong gave her hope that she could rebuild too. It's strange how a tragedy can turn into a gift for others. I'm grateful for the strength I found, and I'm grateful that I can now share it with people. The trial was a blur of documents and testimonies, but the moment the judge read the verdict was crystal clear. It wasn't about the money or the house. It was about the acknowledgement that I was a victim of a crime, not a victim of my own age. Robert's face when he realized he was going to prison was a mask of shock and disbelief. He really thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. No one is above the truth, even in Seattle. I've decided to sell the large city apartment and donate a portion of the proceeds to a local charity that supports women in crisis. I don't need all that space or the memories that come with it. My studio is perfect, and my estate is my true home. I'm lightening my load, getting rid of the things that Robert used to define me. I'm moving forward with only what I need, and it's a very liberating feeling to let go of the past. My granddaughter Sophia spent the weekend with me at the estate, and we spent the whole time painting in the garden. She told me she loves the way I use colors, and I told her that life is too short for a gray palette. We laughed and ate sandwiches on the grass, and I realized that this is the legacy I want to leave, one of resilience and joy, not one of fear and silence. She is the future, and I am her proudest grandmother. Sometimes I look at the yellow envelope that Dr. Carmen gave me, and I think about the courage it took for her to hand it over. She could have looked the other way, but she didn't. She chose to be a hero in my story, and I will always be thankful for her. We still keep in touch, and I send her updates on my life. She told me that seeing me thrive is the best reward she could have received for doing the right thing that day. I've started a small gallery in town to showcase the work of older artists. It's been a huge success, and it's wonderful to see people of my generation being celebrated for their creativity and their vision. We have so much to offer, and it's time the world recognized that. I'm no longer just a teacher. I'm a curator of talent and a champion of the mature spirit. My life has never been more active or more rewarding than it is now. Robert's debt collectors have stopped calling, and the legal battles are finally over. The peace that has settled over my life is profound. I can sleep through the night without waking up in a panic, wondering what I've forgotten. I know exactly where my keys are, and I know exactly where my life is going. I am in control of my own story, and I am writing a very beautiful ending for myself, one page at a time, every single day. I received a card from my old colleagues at the school, saying they missed my presence and my wisdom. It was a lovely gesture, and it reminded me that I am valued beyond my role as a wife. I was a professional, a mentor, and a friend long before I was Robert's target. I am reclaiming all of those identities, and they feel like comfortable old clothes that I'm finally able to wear again after a very long time in storage. The house in Cuernavaca is finally finished, and it's exactly as I imagined it. It's a place of peace and beauty, and I'm looking forward to spending the winter there. I've invited my children and grandchildren to visit, and we're going to make new memories in a place that Robert tried to steal from me. It's a victory for me, and it's a victory for my mother's legacy. The estate is safe, and so am I, and that is a wonderful thing. I've realized that the scent of failure that Robert tried to project onto me was actually his own. He was the one who failed as a husband, a father, and a man. I didn't fail. I survived. And I didn't just survive, I triumphed. The strength that I found in that doctor's office has stayed with me, and it grows stronger every day. I am Rebecca Miller, and I am a winner, not because of my wealth, but because of my unyielding spirit. I walked along the Battery in Charleston today, looking at the mansions and the tourists. It's a beautiful city, but it's the people who make it special. I met a young artist who was sketching the harbor, and we talked about the importance of capturing the light. I told her that the most beautiful light is the one that comes from within after a long storm. She smiled and said she'd remember that. I think she will. It's a lesson for everyone. My grandson Leo is growing so fast, and he's starting to ask questions about the man in the photo. I told him that his grandfather was a person who made very bad choices, but that we can choose to be better. He nodded and went back to his blocks. It's important to be honest with the next generation, but it's also important to show them that we can overcome the mistakes of the past. He is a bright boy, and he is our family's hope. I'm sitting on my porch tonight, writing the final words of this story. The sun is setting, and the sky is a canvas of orange and pink. I feel a deep, profound peace in my soul. I have told my truth, I have cleared the dust of the past, and I have found my life again. My name is Rebecca Miller, and I am free. The old woman is gone, and in her place is a woman who is just getting started on her most important work. I'm gonna put down my pen now and go inside to have a quiet evening with my thoughts. To everyone listening, remember that your life is not a museum for others to judge. You are not an object to be displayed or controlled by anyone, regardless of your age. You are the architect of your own soul. Don't be afraid of the silence, but don't let it become a cage. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes, and find your freedom. Look in the drawers of your life for the hidden letters and the forgotten deeds. The truth is always there, waiting to be found. And once you find it, you can never be a prisoner again. This is my story, and it is a story of a life truly restored from the ashes of betrayal. I have my name, I have my mind, and I have my future. I am Beatrice Miller, and I am finally truly home in the city of Seattle, where my new life began. I realized that the smell of poverty that some people fear is nothing compared to the scent of a soul rotting with greed. Robert had all the luxury in the world, but he was bankrupt of character. I may have a smaller apartment now, but it is filled with a richness that money can't buy. It is filled with the scent of honest work, of wood and paint, and of a woman who finally knows her own worth. I have everything I need right here. True wealth is the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and like the person looking back. It took me 68 years to truly achieve that, but it was worth every struggle. I found that wealth in the workshop, among the wood shavings and the tools of my new craft. I found it in the eyes of my students as they realized their own power. And I found it in the quiet moments on the porch, watching the sun set over the marsh. My late husband Richard would have been so angry about Robert's betrayal, but he would have been even more proud of how I handled it. He always knew I was stronger than I gave myself credit for. He left me a legacy of strength, and I'm finally using it. We are now a family forged in truth, and we are unbreakable. The vase of our family wasn't just repaired, it was transformed into something much stronger and more beautiful. My sister called me yesterday, laughing about my new painting career. "I'm glad you finally found your colors," she said. "It's a good life when you can laugh at the tragedies of the past and see them as the lessons they were meant to be." I am happy, I am healthy, and I am loved. What more could a woman ask for at 69? I am living my best life, and I am doing it on my own terms every single day with joy in my heart. I'm teaching a new class on the art of boundaries at the community center next week. I want to help other women understand that no is a complete sentence. It's a structure that can hold the weight of your life. I want them to build lives that are as solid as the furniture I restore. I want them to be the masters of their own destiny, just like I finally became. It's never too late to learn how to stand your own ground. The smell of cedar and wax in my workshop is the scent of my freedom. It reminds me of the day I decided to take control of my own life. It reminds me that I am the landlord of my own heart now, and that no one else has the key. Robert and Jessica are just footnotes in a much larger story of restoration and triumph. I am Rebecca Miller, and my house smells like victory, peace, and the beautiful scent of a life lived well. My grandson Leo asked me if I was still sad about the man. I told him the truth. "Leo, I'm not sad anymore. I'm just grateful for the strength I found." He thought about it and then gave me a hug. He's a smart kid, sees the strength in the wood, not just the polish on the top. He is my heart, and he is my reason for continuing to build a world based on truth and dignity. He is the best of us, and he is my legacy. Final thought for the evening: don't wait for your world to fall apart to find your worth. Don't wait for a doctor to tell you to run, to realize you have the power to stay and fight. Stand tall today. Speak your truth now, because you are a masterpiece in progress, and the restoration of your soul is the most important work you will ever do in this life. Goodbye for now, and remember, the truth will always set you free.